New York, 1946. The Queen Mary, a behemoth of steel and steam, hissed its final farewells as it nudged against the pier. On its decks, hundreds of women, many clutching children, peered out at the colossal skyline of New York City. Among them, a young woman named Anya Schmidt, barely 22 years old, tightened her grip on a small, worn cloth doll. It was the only toy that had survived the inferno of Dresden, a silent testament to a life irrevocably lost. Her eyes, once brimming with a hope that bordered on naivety, now scanned the endless vista of skyscrapers, a perplexing blend of awe and a nascent dread. The air, thick with the smell of diesel and sea salt, was a stark contrast to the acrid stench of smoke and rubble that had clung to her clothes for so long. For these women, America was whispered to be the promised land, a beacon of opulence, boundless freedom, and endless opportunity. But the true shock awaiting them would not be the abundance they so desperately expected. It would be the profound, disorienting absence of what they had imagined they would find. Can you truly fathom what it means to leave everything, your language, your culture, your very soil, for a new life in a country known only through letters and faded photographs, hoping for a fairy tale, only to encounter a reality that challenges every fiber of your being? Anya's memories of pre-war Germany were fading sepia tones, quickly eclipsed by the stark, brutalist grays of post-war Dresden. The city, once a Baroque jewel, was now a jagged wound of broken stone and haunted memories. It was in this landscape of desolation that she met Sergeant Benjamin Ben Carter, a kind-eyed American soldier whose uniform seemed impossibly neat against the backdrop of ruin. He spoke of a world Anya could barely conceive, houses with endless rooms, refrigerators perpetually stocked with fresh food, and a life uncomplicated by hunger or fear. She clung to these descriptions, crafting a vibrant, almost saccharine image of America in her mind. She had grown up in a culture that valued order, efficiency, and a quiet, dignified stoicism. Her understanding of America was a patchwork quilt woven from glamorous pre-war Hollywood films and Ben's earnest, if perhaps embellished, promises. It was a land of impeccable modernity, where prosperity flowed like a river, where life would surely be effortless, untouched by the visible scars of war that marred her homeland. She pictured meticulously clean homes, perfectly manicured lawns, and warm, welcoming communities. It was an almost childish idealization of American life, a desperate escape from her grim past, a future as pristine as the smooth white paper of Ben's letters, which promised a home with all the conveniences. She'd pore over American magazines he sent, their glossy pages showcasing gleaming kitchens and laughing families in idyllic settings, a jarring contrast to the pervasive dust and gnawing scarcity surrounding her in Dresden. This America, she believed, was salvation. The train journey from New York to Ben's hometown in a small industrial city in Ohio was a blur of fleeting landscapes and strange accents. Each mile deepened a growing sense of unease. When they finally arrived, the house was not the grand, spacious dwelling she had secretly conjured in her hopeful imagination. It was a modest two-story structure on a street that looked perpetually dusty, the paint on its siding peeling in places, its small front garden a neglected tangle of weeds. Inside, the functional, somewhat cramped rooms were filled with heavy, dark furniture. The clashing floral patterns on the curtains and upholstery seemed to scream at each other, and the kitchen, far from the sunlit, gleaming spaces of the magazines, was small and strangely dim. It smelled faintly of something stale, a scent that lingered despite a powerful, cloying industrial cleaner. Even more disquieting were the neighbors, who watched from behind their own curtains with a curiosity that felt less welcoming than it did suspicious. Some whispered in rapid, unintelligible English, their gazes lingering on her, making her feel utterly exposed and alien. Anya's throat tightened, a sudden suffocating knot. The air inside the house felt thick with an unfamiliar mix of mold and dust, underlined by that unsettling chemical tang. The silence, which she had imagined would be comforting and vibrant, was heavy, almost oppressive. Her heart sank, a leaden weight in her chest. This was no paradise. This was ordinary. Worse, it was an ordinary infused with a quiet hostility, a sense of being perpetually observed and judged. The cold reception from those few neighbors, their hurried, clipped English words forming an impenetrable barrier, made her feel profoundly isolated, as if she had landed on another planet. It was a stark, almost violent awakening. Over 70,000 German war brides had arrived in the U.S. between 1946 and 1949, many of them, like Anya, encountering domestic and social realities vastly different from what had been promised, or what they had so desperately imagined. As documented in War Brides, the stories of the women who married GIs from World War II to Vietnam, many German brides arrived expecting a life of Hollywood glamour, only to be met with the mundane realities of working-class American towns, small homes, and a lingering anti-German sentiment that made assimilation a daily struggle. The first weeks were a series of small, bewildering battles. The American kitchen, Ben's pride and joy, was an inscrutable mystery to Anya. The appliances, a gleaming white refrigerator that hummed with a life of its own, a stovetop with complicated knobs, a toaster that sprang bread up with startling force. All were unfamiliar. Recipes were written in strange measurements, cups and spoons, pounds and ounces, an alien system compared to the precise grams and liters she understood. The ingredients themselves, pre-packaged and unfamiliar, were a constant source of confusion at the bustling local supermarket. She would pick up boxes, staring at labels, trying to decipher words, her brow furrowed in concentration. The language barrier was a constant, invisible wall. People spoke so quickly, their words blurring into an incomprehensible stream, peppered with slang and local idioms. Ben tried to help, patiently translating, but her grasp was rudimentary. She found herself smiling and nodding, feigning understanding, while inside, a wave of silent frustration and inadequacy washed over her. She would sneak into the bathroom, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks, feeling useless and childish, despite having survived a war and managed a home in times of extreme scarcity. She was terrified of disappointing Ben, of failing in this new, supposedly perfect life. Ben tried to teach me, a cup is this, a spoon is that, but my mind still thinks in grams and liters. The flour here, it feels different, and the women at the store, they speak so fast, like birds. I just smile and nod, hoping I choose the right potatoes, she scrawled in her small, leather-bound diary, a desperate attempt to capture the chaos in her mind. The average adult can only learn a few hundred new words in a foreign language per year, making true fluency a monumental challenge for immigrants striving for rapid assimilation. The advanced household technology, like blenders and pop-up toasters, while impressive, was merely a superficial challenge compared to the deep-seated linguistic and cultural divide. Then came the invitations, few and far between, but each a glimmer of hope. One afternoon, a woman from down the street, Mrs. Gable, invited Anya for tea. Anya dressed carefully, rehearsing simple English phrases in her mind. But at the tea party, she quickly realized she was an outsider. Conversations would ebb and flow, sometimes punctuated by uncomfortable silences as she approached. Whispers ceased abruptly. She caught glances, not of welcome, but of lingering suspicion. A bolder neighbor, Mrs. Albright, her voice laced with a subtle accusation, asked about her past in Germany, not out of curiosity but with an underlying skepticism that made Anya's skin prickle. What was it like then over there, when the bombs fell? Were you a true believer? Mrs. Albright's eyes, sharp and unforgiving, bored into her, and Anya felt a cold dread creep up her spine. Humiliation burned in her cheeks, a profound loneliness, deeper than any she had felt in the bombed-out streets of Dresden, settled heavily upon her. It was then she realized that for some the war had not truly ended, and she, a German face, carried the indelible burden of her nationality. She yearned to disappear, to become invisible. Studies from the era indicate that while many Americans welcomed returning soldiers and their foreign wives, a significant portion still harbored resentment towards former enemies. Estimates suggest that 20% to 30% of the population expressed outright distrust or open hostility towards German immigrants. A fictional newspaper article, mirroring sentiments of the time, might have read, "While GIs were lauded as heroes, their enemy brides often faced a colder reception." Many small-town communities struggled to reconcile their wartime animosity with the presence of these new German faces. Anya felt this animosity like a physical weight, crushing her spirit. As the months stretched into a year, the sheen began to wear off Ben's American dream as well. He worked long hours at the local factory, his shoulders slumping from exhaustion when he returned home. The hopeful romantic soldier she had known in Germany was often replaced by a silent, preoccupied man, burdened by post-war stress and financial pressures. The distance between them grew, a chasm of unspoken anxieties. Anya found herself longing for her family, for the familiar, brooding landscapes of Germany, for the sense of close-knit community that had, paradoxically, thrived even amidst the devastation. She recognized now that American prosperity came with a steep price, an anonymity that sometimes felt like abandonment, and a relentless, exhausting effort to maintain a precarious new life. The laughter of American families she saw in magazines now seemed to mock her own quiet sorrow. Sometimes I just look out the window at these strange cars and houses, and I yearn for the rubble of Dresden. At least there, I understood the sadness. Here I feel sad, and I don't even know why. Not truly. Ben, he is a good man, but he is tired. We are both just tired, she wrote in a letter to a friend back home, a letter she knew she might never send. The cost of living in post-war America was surprisingly high for many, and soldiers' families often lived on tight budgets. Consequently, the divorce rate among war brides and American soldiers was notably elevated in the initial years, partly due to unmet expectations and the formidable challenges of cultural adaptation. This realization plunged Anya into a deep melancholy, a profound disillusionment. An identity crisis simmered beneath the surface. Was she German? American? Neither? She wrestled with gratitude for the safety and stability, yet grieved the profound cultural and personal loss she had endured. One chilly Tuesday afternoon, during a solitary trip to the public library, Anya overheard a snatch of German. Her head snapped up. Across the room, two women, their faces etched with a familiar weariness, were speaking her mother tongue. Tentatively, Anya approached them. Their names were Greta and Sophie, and they were also German war brides living in a neighboring town. As they spoke, sharing halting stories in a mix of German and broken English, Anya felt a profound shift within her. She had lived with the crushing assumption that she was uniquely isolated, uniquely disillusioned, that her suffering was hers alone. The revelation then was seismic. They were all experiencing it. All the petty frustrations, the linguistic blunders, the cold stares, the aching loneliness. It wasn't just her. It was a shared burden, a collective experience. This unexpected connection made her realize that the blame for her struggles lay neither solely with her, for her inability to adapt perfectly, nor with America for not being the paradise she'd envisioned. Instead, it resided in the vast, often painful chasm between expectation and reality, and in the universal, often invisible, experience of the immigrant. As they sat together, sharing stories over lukewarm coffee, they discovered that while their American homes might not have been the palatial dreams they'd once conjured, the true wealth lay in the quiet resilience they shared and the nascent community they could begin to build with one another. The shocking reality of her new home wasn't solely a disappointment. It was the crucible in which new identities and deep, enduring bonds could be forged. Anya began to understand that true beauty wasn't in material perfection, but in the enduring human capacity to find warmth, connection, and belonging in the most unexpected and challenging of circumstances. Her initial shock had been a veil, and now it was slowly lifting to reveal a different, more complex truth. The psychological toll of her journey was immense. Even now, 2 years removed from the war, Anya was haunted by fleeting, unwelcome flashes of memory. The acrid smell of burning timber in Dresden, the gut-wrenching pang of hunger, the chilling silence after an air raid, the face of her younger brother lost in the chaos. She carried a constant, unspoken pressure to be grateful for her new life in America, a burden that stifled her ability to express the profound sadness and loss she felt. How could she complain about a modest home when she'd once slept in a cellar? Yet the sadness persisted, a quiet hum beneath the surface. She struggled to forge a new identity, torn between her deeply ingrained German past and the relentless, unspoken demand to become American. This internal conflict manifested as a subtle but pervasive immigrant melancholy, a quiet despair that settled deep within her bones, sometimes manifesting in restless nights and a constant, low-grade fatigue. The ethical and legal stakes were also unexpectedly high. Anya knew her status in the country was inextricably linked to Ben. The immigration laws of the era often tied war brides directly to their husbands, leaving many vulnerable in unhappy or even abusive marriages, with little recourse or independent legal standing. There was no robust network of social or legal support specifically designed for immigrant women. Her friend Sophie faced a terrifying ordeal when her application for permanent residency was held up by a prejudiced immigration official, threatening her with deportation unless Ben intervened in an entirely inappropriate manner. Sophie, shaken, confided in Anya that she felt like a possession, not a person. This chilling encounter highlighted the fragile legal tightrope Anya and others walked. The emotional burden on war brides was palpable. While the general post-war anxiety and depression rates were high across the population, among war brides, the incidence of profound isolation and despair was exacerbated by the cultural and linguistic barriers. Approximately 15% of war brides reported feeling constantly depressed or profoundly lonely during their initial years in the U.S. This stark reality often compelled women like Anya to seek out mutual support networks, small, clandestine gatherings where they could speak their native tongues, share recipes, and simply be understood. In more tragic instances, this silent suffering led to undiagnosed and untreated mental health issues, making the burgeoning community Anya found with Greta and Sophie not just a comfort, but a lifeline, a testament to the sheer resilience required to navigate such profound challenges. The fragile sense of belonging Anya had begun to cultivate was abruptly threatened one autumn evening. Ben came home from the factory with grim news. A promising job opportunity had arisen in a city 3 states away. It was a significant promotion, a chance for a better future, he argued, his face alight with excitement. But for Anya, it meant tearing up the delicate roots she had just begun to put down, severing the nascent ties with Greta and Sophie, and plunging back into the isolating abyss of anonymity. She felt a cold dread, the kind that had clutched her during the air raids, but this time, it was a threat to her soul, not her body. Simultaneously, a sensationalist article appeared in the local newspaper, the Ohio Valley Tribune, its headline screaming, "German wives, danger or desire. Local GIs bring home the enemy." The piece, penned with venomous undertones by a concerned citizen, painted German war brides as opportunistic, ungrateful, and subtly accused them of being potential spies or saboteurs. The article stirred the latent hostility in the community, and renewed, open prejudice flared. Glances turned into glares, whispers into snide remarks on the street. Anya and her small circle of friends suddenly became targets, their tenuous peace shattered. This was her breaking point. The combined weight of Ben's unthinking demand for relocation and the venomous public attack ignited a fierce protective fire within her. She found Ben sitting at the kitchen table that evening, a hopeful glint in his eye as he reviewed his job offer. Anya walked to the table, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was clear, unwavering. "I cannot go, Ben," she said, the words surprising even herself. Ben looked up, startled. "What? Anya, this is a chance. A good chance for us." "For us?" she retorted, her voice rising slightly. "Or for you? I cannot go. Not now. Not ever, if it means losing this." She gestured vaguely around their small, cluttered home, but her eyes held a deeper meaning. "I have just found my feet. Just found people who understand. I will not be uprooted again. I will not be silent." A surge of power, primal and undeniable, coursed through her. She refused to be defined by her past as a war-ravaged German, nor by the narrow opinions of those who wished her ill. She closed her eyes for a fleeting second, invoking the fierce resilience that had carried her through Dresden, through the hunger and the bombs. She had survived that. She could survive this. This was not merely about a move. It was about her very identity, her nascent sense of self, which she would no longer sacrifice for anyone. She was not a victim, not a pawn. She was Anya. This climax, Anya's passionate refusal and Ben's stunned realization, validated every single struggle she had endured. The baffling language, the isolating culture shock, the sting of prejudice. These experiences had not broken her. They had tempered her, sharpened her, and prepared her for this crucial moment of self-defense, of finally asserting her own identity and her own desperate need for connection. The small, quiet German girl had found her voice, and it was unafraid. The immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of uneasy tension and surprising grace. Ben, after a long, quiet night of introspection, decided to decline the transfer. He found a different, albeit slightly less lucrative opportunity at a smaller manufacturing plant on the outskirts of town, one that didn't demand a relocation. It was a compromise, a gesture of understanding that Anya reciprocated with a quiet, renewed affection. Old Mrs. Henderson, surprising everyone, including herself, approached Anya in the park a few days later, offering to help her with English lessons. Her approach was gruff, but her lessons were patient, practical, focused on local idioms and pronunciation, slowly building a bridge between their worlds. Mrs. Henderson also, to Anya's astonishment, began introducing her to other, more receptive members of the community, quietly vouching for her character. Inspired by Anya's defiance and emboldened by their shared vulnerabilities, the small group of German war brides, Anya, Greta, Sophie, and a few others, transformed their tentative gatherings into a formal support group. They met weekly at the local church basement, turning their collective loneliness into a potent force of solidarity. They shared recipes, translated letters, discussed navigating American schools for their children, and offered comfort for homesickness. The overt prejudice in the town, though not entirely vanquished, began to recede, becoming subtler, less openly hostile, replaced by a cautious acceptance from some and a grudging tolerance from others. Through Mrs. Henderson's connections, Anya secured a part-time job at a local bakery, the Sweet Spot. There she found her niche, adapting traditional German recipes, dark rye breads, intricate tarts, delicate gingerbreads, to available American ingredients and palettes. She infused the bakery with new flavors, finding a quiet joy in creation, in contributing and crafting something tangible and beloved. Over the long tale of the years, Anya and Ben built a marriage far stronger and more equitable than either could have imagined. It was founded not on idealized romance, but on mutual respect, deep understanding, and shared resilience. They had children, a son and a daughter, who grew up effortlessly bilingual and bicultural, serving as living bridges between two worlds. Anya, through her work at the bakery and her continued involvement with the War Bride support group, became a quiet but influential voice in the community, advocating for cultural understanding and helping other immigrants navigate their own new beginnings. She never forgot her German roots, honoring them in her cooking, her stories, and her quiet dignity. But she also wholeheartedly embraced her American identity, finding a profound and hard-won balance. She was no longer just a German war bride. She was Anya Carter, a woman of strength and purpose, a beloved member of her community. Decades later, in the early 2000s, Anya's granddaughter, Eleanor, a budding historian, stumbled upon a treasure trove in the attic. Anya's meticulously kept diaries, faded photographs, and carefully preserved letters. Eleanor spent months poring over them, piecing together a narrative of courage, sacrifice, and quiet triumph. Deeply moved by her grandmother's journey, Eleanor was inspired to create a museum exhibit titled Shocks and Sustenance: The Untold Stories of War Brides in America, at the local historical society. The exhibit meticulously documented not only the experiences of German war brides, but also those from other nations, highlighting the immense cultural diversity they brought to America. It showcased how their initial, often shocking realities were not a tragic end, but rather the powerful catalyst for lives defined by courage, perseverance, and the constant, beautiful redefinition of what it truly means to build and find a home. Anya's story, once a private struggle, became a luminous testament to the enduring power of identity, adaptation, and the human spirit in shaping the very fabric of a nation. The shocking homes that German war brides found in America were not merely buildings or landscapes. They were the fertile, challenging ground where human resilience and enduring hope miraculously found a new and profound sense of belonging. How many untold stories of profound shock, immense sacrifice, and quiet triumph still weave through the tapestry of our society, subtly shaping its very foundations? And what crucial lessons can we glean from the unwavering courage of those who dared to rebuild their lives in a world that was utterly foreign, often hostile, and always irrevocably changed? Dive deeper into the forgotten histories that illuminate our present. Explore the intricate ways immigrant experiences continue to mold our collective identity and challenge our perceptions. Follow for more narratives that unveil the compelling truths behind the headlines, making us question everything we thought we knew about what it truly means to belong.